Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Luke and this is my review of 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey came out this past Valentine's Day weekend and it broke a couple of records. I think it was the highest grossing movie, weekend gross at least, for a movie in February. I think that was one of the records it broke, and I think that it also broke a record for like the #1 opening for an R-rated movie of all time. And let me just tell you, all of you, that the fact that that happened really disgusts me. Now before all of you discredit me and say like, oh, you're just gonna hate on this movie because it's not made for you and it just to hate on it, that's not true at all. I went into 50 Shades of Grey with so much optimism. I was actually really looking forward to it because I wanted to know what all the hype was about, and it's definitely a topic or a movie that sounds kind of interesting. It sounds like it could be pretty stupid, but I was really going into it with the best mentality that I think I possibly could. I wasn't going into it like, oh, I'm gonna hate this movie because I'm a guy. I wasn't going into it like that. I was going into it hoping to find an entertaining movie. Maybe it's kind of funny at some parts, unintentionally funny, a little cheesy here and there. I was really hoping to enjoy this movie somehow, but the truth is, I didn't enjoy 50 Shades of Grey whatsoever. Now this movie stars Dakota Johnson, and I don't remember the guy's name, but I'm not even going to try to look up his name because I don't care what his name is. And Dakota Johnson is an actress who I haven't seen in a lot. I think she was in Need for Speed last year, and she was also in 21 Jump Street, and she just hasn't been in a whole lot, but I feel like she's an actress that could be capable of landing a good role and being good in a good role. But the thing is, the character of Anastasia Steele, the woman who Mr. Grey is after the entire time, the main character of this movie is so worthless and pathetic. Anastasia Steele cannot think for herself. She doesn't ever stick up for herself. She is constantly just being used, and she never really knows what she wants. She's the most annoying and pointless character I have ever seen on screen. She was worse than Mila Kunis in Jupiter Ascending. Anastasia Steele is such a worthless, putrid human being or character that I don't even know why people get all hyped up about her, because it's literally the worst character I've ever seen written into a movie. There was nothing likable about her. She was constantly annoying, and she just could not think for herself. Mr. Grey in this movie, he wants his own thing. Mr. Grey wants his own weird little thing. He's into BDSM and all that stuff, which is fine, I guess, for him, but she just wastes all of his time in this movie, and wastes my time too. Mr. Grey has his own intentions. You understand why he's doing what he's doing, but you don't really fucking understand what Anastasia wants. I guess they fell in love. The two characters in this movie, they fall in love, but there's no connection. There's no real relationship. There's no reason for these two people to be in love. There's not a single scene where we can see them connect as human beings. It's just him taking her around on helicopter rides and plane rides and then fucking strapping her down and raping her. Not raping her, but you guys know what I mean. That's literally all their relationship consists of, yet she says, I think I'm in love with you. But she doesn't like all this stuff that that's happening to her, that he's doing to her, but this movie was so stupid. Now, I will say that it was pretty competently directed by Sam Taylor Johnson. The shots were really nice. The acting wasn't even that bad. There were some moments and some lines where the delivery was a little cringeworthy, but overall the acting was fine. It wasn't anything special, but it wasn't that bad. But the thing is, the point I'm trying to get across is anybody could have directed this movie. Martin Scorsese could have directed this movie, and it would have still come out like shit, because this story has nothing to it. Literally the entire time in this movie, they're trying to get Anastasia Steele to sign these papers, a contract where she accepts being the submissive from Mr. Grey, the dominant. That's literally the whole entire 2 hours and 5 minutes of this movie, is them negotiating and having sex in the middle of these negotiations to be able to tie each other up and shit. And it fucking drove me crazy. It was so stupid, and yet there was love. There was no love in this movie, and the worst part is this is going to be stretched out into 2 more movies. And if they decide to split the 3rd book into 2 parts, then maybe we could be getting 4 movies, because this movie was so successful in the money department that I feel like they could break up that 3rd book into 1 or 2 parts and just make more and more money, and that makes me fucking sick. pick. 50 Shades of Grey is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my entire life. I hated this movie. This movie was so incredibly bad. There was no story whatsoever. There was no connection and no chemistry with the lead actors, and it was such a horrible movie, and it follows the story of this unlikable, just despicable, useless, pathetic person. I don't remember her name. Anastasia Steele. That's her stupid name. 50 Shades of Grey really, I flew off the handle. I was so irritated with this movie. And the woman who wrote this book, this is the story of 50 Shades of Grey. This is how it became a thing. She read Twilight. She's like 40 years old, first of all, which if you ask me is fucking pathetic. If you're reading Twilight and then you are inspired to write fan fiction about Twilight, I mean, if you're that old and you're doing that, then something is wrong. I'm sorry. And then, of course, those little fan fiction writings that she did became very popular. She morphed them into 3 books called 50 Shades of Grey and all that stuff, whatever the rest of them are called. And now they're making a movie about it that made a ton of money, and it doesn't deserve it because there's literally no story and nothing to connect to with the characters. The characters are horrible, and the acting is just so decent. The direction is fine, but you can't make a good movie if you don't have story and characters, and this movie is totally lacking that. 50 Shades of Grey gets 1 out of 5 stars for me. You know what? I'm wearing 50 Shades of Grey right now. Like, I got my gray button up. I have a gray Star Wars shirt on underneath. I've got gray pants. I've got gray on the tips of my socks, and there's a little bit of gray on my boxers, too. I'm 50 Shades of Grey. So, I hate this movie. Like, I wanted to like it. I really wanted to enjoy it somehow, in some way, shape, or form, whether it was in a guilty pleasure kind of way, a way that just I laugh at it, or a way where I actually really feel connected and have a personal feeling with the characters, but you don't get any of that in 50 Shades of Grey, and it just makes me, it drives me nuts. It makes me insane that this movie made so much money. It does not deserve a single penny that it earned this weekend, and it just disgusts me, and I can't believe how stupid and how many imbeciles there are around the entire globe. And I will admit I'm being kind of a hypocrite because I paid to see this movie. I used MoviePass, so I didn't really pay, but I gave the movie money in some form, and I feel really bad about that. I wish I would have just said, you know what, 1 for Kingsman, and then just walked into 50 Shades of Grey, because Kingsman is a movie that deserves your money a lot more than 50 Shades of Grey.